In here today we have a 1991 Johnson 15-horse outboard. Customer brought in the fall. No complaints, other than he wants to know if it runs, how it runs. He wants it to be a reliable engine, which these Johnson SeaHorse engines usually can be. He doesn't know much about it other than his neighbor gave it to him. Nice gift, nice neighbor. I happen to know the neighbor, and he usually takes very good care of his stuff. So right now I'm just doing a visual inspection of the engine. It looks like, it appears to be a well-used Johnson outboard. You know, the normal dirt and grime here and there. You can see the pull cord is stretched out. So that's going to be replaced. Let's see here. See if we got, feels like we have compression, but we're not going to get that far. But you see how that is. A lot of people cut that off and tie it back. Don't do that. Replace the cord. The other thing we see with these is these sticking and not actually turning where they're supposed to be. As you see, there's a slow shift, start, and fast on there, and a lot of times what will happen is this rubber spins, but the gears are not actually spinning, and it's because the U-joints in there require lubrication. Speaking of lubrication, we can see that, like I said, it's a well-used engine. It's kind of hard to turn. You can see the grease. It's probably the original grease is broken down and it's running down the pivot, so we will push all that out and re-grease the pivot housing on this. And then we get down to the lower unit here, and we see one of these guys. Hydrofoil, people call it whale tail. I don't like these. I don't like seeing them on any engine, really. And I have my reasons and an opinion on it. For one, a lot of people, what happens is they put these on their engines because their boat is not getting up on plane like it used to. Well, if your boat is not getting up on plane like it used to, this is not the answer. You know, if you've got other issues, your engine is not performing the way it should. So we'll see about this. Like I said, I don't like seeing them on any engine. I really don't like seeing them on stern drives. Because anything you add like this, the thing of it is it may get you up on plane, it may do certain things, but it is also adding stress to this engine that the manufacturer did not intend. Okay, and now can you see where that's a problem, especially on stern drives? It's also a problem on these. It's stressing out. It's putting more stress on your pivot housing there. It's putting more stress on the transom, and it's typically not a good idea. If your boat's not getting up on plane with a brand new engine, your boat's underpowered. So we'll see. We'll talk to the owner about this and see what he wants to do about it for his application. At the same time, I will also say that I don't think it's going to hurt anything in his application. He's putting this on a 12 or I think it's a 12-foot semi-inflatable. And I don't think it's going to necessarily hurt anything. So there you go. I have varying opinions on these things, but what it boils down to is I really don't like seeing them on engines. It's too much stress. Prop looks to be in pretty good shape. Looks to be spinning true, although it's not spinning real free, but these don't usually spin all that free anyway. But of course we're going to change the gear lube. Aluminum prop, it's got its little dings and cuts and nicks and things like that, but that's nothing I can't take care of, and I will take care of for this customer. It's got a nice bend in here. Hit something there, probably going backwards, backed into something, so we'll have to see. Ooh, we'll have to see how much play is in there. Well, let's go back up top, pull the cover off, and see what we got here going on here. So it's your typical Johnson Evinrude, Johnson SeaHorse, Evinrude, kind of the same deal. You'll notice it has an idle speed screw up in here where you can go and and adjust your idle speed. Although I don't see where that goes to when it comes to going inside of the engine here. I don't see a idle speed screw anywhere on the inside, so we'll get to that. Like I said, the controls are pretty stiff, but we'll solve that. You know, otherwise it looks relatively clean. It's gonna need new spark plugs, probably JC4s. What is that? 7 JC4, so JC4, new set of JC4 plugs for sure. And of course we will, basically what we're going to do is, first thing I'm going to do is just try to fire it up and see if it actually runs at all, and then we'll go from there. Just getting ready to start this here and take a look down here to see. A lot of times these Evinrudes and Johnsons need to be submerged in order to start out of the water, meaning bunny ears, putting bunny ears on here. A lot of times we'll not cut it. This one looks like it might. I don't know if I want to take the chance, but as I was looking down here, and the water intake is pretty clogged up on this side. You've got 1, 2, 3 out of 5 of them are just about completely clogged on this side, and we're clear on this side, so at least we're getting water on one side. That is good. Okay, like I said, these outboards typically like to be submerged, so you can see I've got a submerging tank here. I've got our fuel hooked up, and I have temporarily shortened this cord so that I can get some pull on this. And we're going to go ahead and pull the choke. We're going to put this, even though this is not lining up, we can go all the way to the fast and kind of turn it back to where we think start would be. We'll give it a couple of pulls and see what happens. We've got nothing. Go ahead and prime it. Make sure we're getting fuel. Looks like we are definitely getting fuel. We'll go ahead and turn the choke off. Although I don't know whether this choke is actually doing anything anymore. Yeah, it does look like it's working. Make sure we're in neutral. Choke off. So far we have 0. Okay, after pulling on this thing enough times to want a nap, we verified that we have fuel, and now we need to verify whether or not we have spark. What I like to do is, before we even verify that we pull the plugs out and have spark, what I like to do is verify that the coil packs are even working. An easy way to do that is with one of these doohickeys here. What happens is if the coil packs are working, oh, look at this. If the coil packs are working, that should light up. And as you see, we have no light. So we may have a problem with the coil pack, at least one of them, but it also may not be that. So what we do next is check for spark. Although this did not light up, as you see where it's made, it's probably not a reliable device either, but it worked last time I used it. I have so far pulled one very well used JC4 spark plug, and I will go ahead and see if I can see any spark. I have it grounded to the engine here, and with any luck we'll see some spark. And I see no spark on that one. Let's check the other one. Okay, so now that I've got both spark plugs out and I've now verified they both have spark, although it be a little weak, what happened here is one of these lines inside of here had come loose, which is on the stop, the safety stop. One of the lines inside there had come loose. When I saw that there was no spark on either cylinder, I find it very hard to believe that both coil packs would be gone. So that's what made me investigate up to the ignition on-off switch. So I'm going to go ahead and put those plugs back in and see if we can do any better than we have been. Now, with the spark plugs back in and the on-off switch in the on position, we will attempt to try this again, see what we have. I'll go ahead and pull the choke just as I did before. I'm going to go ahead and get the throttle where I believe it would be to start it, pull the choke and give her a pull. This starter mechanism needs to be addressed too, because the spring is weak. Still nothing. Go ahead and turn the choke off. Go ahead and throttle this up a little bit. And something just broke. Like I said, there was a spring in this starter, pull starter mechanism, and a spring or something just went flying off and landed inside there. So we're getting off to a great start here. Okay, after the retaining spring for the starter, you see that right there, flew off, so we're going to have to address that as well. This gear's a little chewed up here. Now this isn't anything to be crazy concerned about, being that it's a 1991 and it's well used. Anyway, we're going to continue on and see if we can't get this thing running. So what I did is something I'm also never going to recommend you do, is I gave it a little bit of starting fluid, just because we are in Michigan and we're in January, it's quite cold out here. Starting fluid is not the answer if your engine won't start. This engine is in need of a tune-up. We're going to go ahead and do it. You can hear it's quite a nice, quiet running motor. But what we're going to end up doing is a complete tune-up. We're going to replace the spark plugs. We're going to pull the flywheel off. We're going to check the points. If the points are in good shape, we'll clean them. We will be replacing the condensers, I'm sure. You know, think of a condenser as a capacitor. It has a lifespan on it of 5 to 20 years. If the original condenser and points are in it, I might just replace both, especially being that it's a very well-used outboard. I believe we're going to have to do some work here to the starter mechanism. That spring there is keep popping off, so we're going to have to do something there. Probably be a good idea to replace this gear and all the components associated with this. We'll be taking this apart anyway because we need to replace the rope, the full starter rope. So what I like to do at this point is run these for a little while, let them get warmed up, let them run, and then I also like to check forward and reverse and see how that's working, how everything's operating, and we'll go from there. Also at this point in time, it's a good idea to check the water stream. That tells us that the impeller is pumping water to the engine. These are all things to look for, and a lot of times I know I take for granted because I've been doing it for so long. I'm going to go ahead and upload this video. In part 2, I will show you how to do a proper tune-up on one of these engines. Thanks.